You're watching the AM show. Time now to bring you some news updates. Now first, peaceful assembly is a constitutional right and should be protected. Ghana's laws and human rights organizations like Amnesty International have on several occasions called on police and courts to respect that right and only limit it where strictly necessary, proportionate and lawful. But to what extent have these calls been heeded? Who is enforcing the protection of the protester and the protest? Watch excerpts of a latest hotline documentary airing today, Monday, very later on the show.
Ghana police is breaking the law and denying us our right of simple movement.
If you look at our history, both what survives of the long pre-colonial period, even before the establishment of former colonial rule, women were always there in the positive action campaign. Some women went to prison, and yet the way we teach our history, we don't bring these things out at all.
I participated in a protest by women seeking protection during a period when there was a serial killer.
I was frustrated because the lights were constantly off all the time. I remember one evening I went on Twitter and I tweeted, "Doomsday must stop."
They ripped my dresser pass and I'm on TV in my bra.
The position of the protester might one day become the norm.
You want to stay with us for the full documentary later on the show. And as well in the news, Ghana cannot afford to delay the urgent need for stricter regulation on artisanal mining, improved environmental intelligence and direct community health interventions as the citizenry remains exposed to a cocktail of toxic metals. That's the urgent call as a new assessment by the Environmental Protection Agency, which you know as EPA, working with the British Council and environmental NGO Pure Earth, uncovers dangerous levels of heavy metal contamination in parts of Ghana linked to artisanal and small-scale gold mining. The research, conducted between November 2024 and March 2025, sampled soil, water, air, fish, and food crops such as kontomire across 11 sites in 6 regions, including Ashanti region, Western, North, Central, Eastern, and Savannah. More in the following report.
Revealed mercury levels at Konongo-Zongo in the Ashanti region exceeded safety guidelines by more than 560%, while other mining areas like Konongo-Zongo and Pristia also recorded worrying levels. Arsenic contamination was widespread, particularly in water and fish samples, while cadmium levels were low but still posed long-term risk. Lead levels were mostly below guideline limits, but dangerous spikes were detected in communities like Dakrope. Experts warn the pollution threatens public health, with children and pregnant women most at risk. Mercury and lead exposure can impair brain development, while arsenic and cadmium carry severe health consequences. The report recommends capacity building for local environmental offices, better public access to environmental data, and the creation of an open access database to improve monitoring and response.
Now, still on illegal mining, a few meters from the Kwanyako treatment plant, the Yeji River that once supplied clean water to thousands now flows thick brown, the visible scars of galamsey. For residents of Kwanyako, this is not just an environmental disaster. It is a daily fight for survival as even boreholes churn out unsafe water and families are forced to boil and treat water, whatever they fetch. My colleague Jacqueline Ansuma Yeboah visited the area and has more in the following report.
Standing at the banks of the Yeji River in Kwanyako, the water now runs a thick brown. A few minutes walk into town, residents are struggling to cope. From boreholes and wells that produce visibly dirty water to food vendors lamenting the impact on their trade. The once dependable river has become a burden instead of a blessing. One visibly shaking elderly resident told JoyNews,
I am Papa. I am Papa. Because of this, I am Sunam.
It's moye day, moye day, Diane, Mujari.
There were Oko, Oki, there's no honor. Samson is easy. I thought, why that muscle? The whole central, one of Samsi, and emptying from one papa.
We once drank this water, but today we cannot even bathe with it. We vote for leaders, yet they do not act in our best interest.
Both sides, everything we have. Hey, look.
Another resident preparing to bathe with water from a well explained she has no choice but to boil and treat the brownish water with alum before use.
So yeah, and yes, I am and so we are yesterday bibia even though yanum. But you see the Moabim to so to see the year. Yes, my own shamaying. No so no. More munja was galamsey for a most sense. It's not one and so Ebula. It's Bula and a chronic color in Bula, sister, yes, sir. You see, so Yamiadum, and Mampoqua Bedomian, Boho too. You are high, yes, sir. Then you drive the women could drive into Mebania. So that is it over there. You can take a closer look. That is so she's going to bath. She has to boil it before. Yes. That is from the borehole. She has to boil it before. So every day you have to boil it before. Yes. Is it going to be clean? A clean kakra. Along before and oh, okay. It has a boiling no.
After boiling the water, I add alum just to make it a bit clearer. Amidst the community's frustration, politicians have also waded into the debate. Director of Communications for Dr. Bawumia's campaign, Dennis Miracles Aboagye, speaking at the Kwanyako treatment plant, called on the government to propose fresh solutions to the galamsey menace.
And simply telling the galamseyers that if they manage to get the gold, whether through foul or fair means, he is ready to buy them. Again, he confirmed through his press engagement that indeed he could be buying gold from galamseyers to as much as $4 billion out of the $6 billion he has exported. That for us, we believe, it's a cause for concern. Because the president is giving us an indication that he could be buying illegal gold from criminals and exporting. And that is what he's anchoring his government's transformation plan on. Then we cannot trust and believe that he is going to put measures in place to end galamsey. Because should he succeed at ending galamsey, what he is telling us is that he may be running short of $6 billion, $4 billion out of $6 billion possible exports. We are begging, pleading, and appealing to the president and the NDC government that we beg him, he should prioritize our lives and the environment over money. And that we are not interested in how much money he is getting from these criminals. If you want to move away from the data to how these things can be proven with the impact, that is where we are standing now. The fact that the Kwanyako water treatment plant for the first time have had a cost to shut down the water plant. The fact that the people of Kwanyako, Agoda East, Agoda West, Gomoa Central, and close to 11 districts do not have water to drink and do not have water to even wash their face. It's evidence enough to show that the situation has worsened. And we are sure that now that we have presented this to the government, they will take some decisive action and not continue to repeat the same old strategies they spoke against.
As the Anyesi River continues to flow muddy, residents of Kwanyako and surrounding towns are left to grapple with water scarcity and health risk. For them, the fight against galamsey is no longer a political debate. it is a question of survival.
But at the end of the day, residents are asking, until when will this water continue to be this thick brown? They are calling on leaders, they are calling on the government to ensure that this very area, that is the Kwanyako area, they have potable water here to use.
For JoyNews, I'm Jacqueline and Sama Yaboa.
Well, quite worrying. But on to another disturbing matter. Disturbing trends in child trafficking, with sub-Saharan Africa recording the highest number of victims, have triggered fresh concerns from various stakeholders. The International Justice Mission is calling for stronger collaboration among government agencies, churches, and civil society to curb the menace. There's a report on this morning there.
With fresh data from the United Nations showing a rise in child trafficking, with sub-Saharan African countries recording the highest number of victims, the International Justice Mission is calling for stronger collaboration among government agencies, churches, and other stakeholders to curb the disturbing menace. Speaking at Freedom Sunday 2025, a day dedicated to mobilizing action against human trafficking and modern-day slavery, Country Director for International Justice Mission Ghana, Anita Budu, urged societal institutions, especially religious bodies, to take up the fight.
Justice Mission, we believe that in working to protect the poor and most vulnerable from violence and exploitation, the church has a role to play. As faith institutions, we should not only be looking at ourselves, but we should also be looking at the wider community and what God says in that. And so today we focused on God's heart for both righteousness and justice. And often as churches, we focus on the righteousness side, but today we are elaborating on God's heart for justice. And what this means is that God is moved by people who are being exploited and abused, because this moves away from how he wanted us as human beings to be. And so this is really the call for the church, that in whichever way, shape or form, that we look in our communities to be able to do what we can to restore this dignity to the most vulnerable in our communities wherever we are.
She also outlined the mission's achievements over the past 10 years, while stressing the need for greater public awareness to facilitate the liberations of victims.
Over the past 10 years, we've brought protection to over 500 children and vulnerable women from various forms of exploitation and trafficking. But further to that, aside from that number, our work with our government partners have also ensured that there are systems in place to prevent children from being in that situation in the first place. Because in as much as you're removing children and vulnerable people from these situations, you want there to be a strengthened net, community of support, from social welfare, from the police, from community leaders especially, also to ensure that children don't go out into that situation in the first place.
As the global campaign to end child trafficking gathers momentum, International Justice Mission says it is hopeful the menace can be defeated in the shortest possible time. For JoyNews, Maxwell Aklobato, Accra.
Also, on the shores of Ghana's Volta Lake, a region long plagued by child trafficking and forced labor in its fishing industry, a groundbreaking initiative is offering parents a sustainable alternative by combining frank dialogue with, as well, many other matters that they can help find practical entrepreneurial training for their families. The Yeji Justice Initiative is working to break the cycle of exploitation and keep children in classrooms instead of a dangerous boat. Anna Sabit has more in this report.
The waters of Ghana's Volta Lake are a source of life and beauty. But for countless children here, this lake is also a place of lost childhoods, a backdrop for a cycle of exploitation and forced labor. But now, from the heart of one of the most affected communities, a wave of change is beginning to form. For the 6th consecutive year, Globe Serve Ministries International, through its Yeji Justice Initiative, is bringing its message directly to the source. This isn't a protest, it is a dialogue, and the goal is to confront the painful issue of child labor in the fishing industry by engaging the very people involved, the boat masters and the vulnerable parents who feel they have no other choice. Reverend Samuel Jr. is the founder and general overseer of Globe Serve Ministries.
We are here in Yeji, and you and I will know that Yeji is a bit along the water lake. There is this fishing communities that has a practice that is not justifiable. Children are held captive. Children are being exploited. Children are not educated. Why? It's because of this fishing industry that is being found in the Yeji and its environs. So GlobeServe, with our partners, we are embarking on a journey to ensure that these children are given the right of life. They are given the best of life. And that is that their children are being able to educate, go to school, have education, so that they can become what the Lord has asked them to become.
And that better way is practical. While the both masters were in dialogue, their wives were in empowerment training. This is the critical second step, providing families with sustainable alternatives to survive without sending their children onto the dangerous waters.
And so our way is to bring together 100 boat masters and bring 100 of their wives so that we will have a dialogue and to talk about how we can provide a decent living for our children, how we can treat them without exploiting them at the expense of their education.
The ultimate prize is this: a classroom, not a fishing boat, a notebook, not a net. The initiative is a holistic approach, challenging the conscience of the community while equipping it with the tools to break free from poverty. Reverend Junior admonished all leaders, traditional, church, and everyone to speak out in order to ignite a lasting justice movement.
The political leaders is very simple. We have laws. Let's enforce the law. My advice to traditional authority, the chiefs and field mothers, they should make their stools be remembered that it is a stool that fights against injustice.
Some of these beneficiaries who received entrepreneurial trainings to help empower them thanked the ministry for the lifeline and the wake-up call and promised to stay away from engaging their wars in the fishing trade.
Nsanojuma bi ti se liquid soap anase dettol ene ya besia nti we be bua ye de be ko dwa so ato se na be ya ma ne be ko school omu ko nsuo so biem me da mo ase se ma nya me nsa na adwuma me nkwala no mo nsa ko nsuo so biem me de be se me nkwala no school na da chi se me so me ka fa akura nkwala no ma nya bua ya omu de be bua me.
The fight against child trafficking is a complex battle, fought against currents of poverty and tradition. But here in Yeji, they are building a new model, one that combines conviction with compassion and justice with jobs. It is a proof that the most effective net for catching a better future isn't cast into the water, but woven by the hands of an empowered community. Anna Sabit, JoyNews, Yeji.
Now, the Upper West Regional Minister, Charles Puziong, has observed that children with neurodevelopmental challenges misunderstood and denied of the support they need. However, it is believed that every child possesses dignity, potential, and as well the right to flourish. He therefore called on the society to embrace them, urging policymakers to construct as well health service infrastructure and also modules that are inclusive of neurodiversity, that integrate early childhood support into our district's budget. And speaking at the Go North Medical Outreach held in Wa, the Upper West Regional Minister calls for investments in community-based training for caregivers and educators, thereby translating the vision into ensuring realities. Upper West Regional Correspondent Rafiq Salam has more in this report.
The third edition of the Go North Medical Outreach took place in the Upper West Regional capital of Wa. This year's outreach is coming on the heels of the successes struck on the previous edition, where they screened and provided care to over 500 children in northern Ghana, offered training to local health workers to strengthen their capacity for early diagnosis and referral, created safe spaces for parents and caregivers to share their experiences, challenges, and hopes, and forge partnerships with local and national medical institutions committed to pediatric neurological care. It was held on the theme Bringing Hope and Healing to Children with Neurodevelopmental Challenges. A co-host of the Governor of Medical Outreach, Professor Mahmoud Abunga Akundugu, threw further light on the theme of the medical outreach.
This year's theme, Bringing Hope and Healing to Children with Neurodevelopmental Challenges, reminds us of two important truths. That every child matters, regardless of background or circumstances. Each child is endowed with potential, dignity, and the right to thrive. And that hope and healing require collective action. Families affected by autism, cerebral palsy, attention deficit disorders, and other neurodevelopmental conditions often face stigma, isolation, and inadequate health services. By coming together, health professionals, community leaders, government agencies, and development partners, we create pathways to healing, not only for the children, but also for their families and communities.
The focus of this year's program is therefore to provide specialized pediatric neurological consultations for children in the Upper West region, support community-based rehabilitation initiatives to ensure continuity of care, build stronger referral systems between local facilities and tertiary centers, conduct awareness campaigns to reduce stigma and foster inclusion for children living with neurodevelopmental challenges. Upper West Region Minister Charles Wongo Pozung, whilst commending Go North and their partners for the medical outreach, noted that it has extended a powerful challenge to policymakers to build sustainable industrial systems by ensuring that every district hospital, school, and community are equipped to enhance and support neurodiverse children.
Too often, children with neurodevelopmental differences are marginalized, misunderstood, and deprived of the support they need. Yet we believe and must uphold that every child possesses dignity, potential, and a right to flourish. That is the moral power behind our commitment today. To us, leaders and policymakers here today, let us heed this call. Let us build health infrastructure and service models that are inclusive of neurodiversity. Let's integrate early childhood developmental support into our district budgets. Let's invest in community-based training for caregivers and educators, translating the vision into enduring realities.
A view further elaborated by the acting medical director of the Upper West Regional Hospital, Dr. Philip Kra Babine, who chaired the function on behalf of the Upper West Regional Director of Health Services, Dr. Joseph Ednogzali.
Government must continue to create policies and allocate resources to support early identification and intervention services. Our traditional leaders and community leaders should help in mobilizing families and reducing the stigma surrounding children with neurodevelopmental challenges and other things that we classify as this is an abnormal child. Educators and schools should embrace inclusive practices that nurture every child.
Reporting for JoyNews, Rafik Salam. Wow.
And while the push for gender inclusivity and equality continues to gain ground, stakeholders are being urged not to overlook ensuring equal opportunities for persons living with disabilities across all fields of work. Now as well, speaking during a donation exercise to students of Cape Coast School for the Deaf and Blind, CEO of Lavi Group, Benedict Kwesi Obeng, stressed that disability is not equal inability and called on corporate leaders and policy makers to create inclusive and supportive environments that enable persons with disabilities to thrive, particularly within the corporate world.
Smiles have been brought on the faces of students of the Cape Coast School for the Deaf and Blind after a donation was made to the school by the Lavi Group. The group, which consists of 15 professionals from various fields, donated groceries and a water pump, among other items, to the school as part of the group's 10th anniversary activities. The group's CEO, Benedict Kwesi-Obeng, shares that the gesture is meant to ease some of the challenges of the students.
This year marks our 10th year of the creation of this group, so our 10th anniversary. And every year we do have an annual general meeting. So this year, as part of activities to commemorate the 10 years anniversary, we decided to honor our godfather who resides in Cape Coast, and he mentioning to us that he is affiliated to a group that has hosted this school before. That's the School for the Blind, the Deaf and Blind. We decided that as part of our annual general meeting, we would also give back to society what society and God has given to us.
He also noted that persons living with disability also deserve equal opportunities, urging their inclusion in the fields of work.
In institutions that I've worked with, I've seen people with disabilities being employed, given equal opportunities, and especially as we work towards gender inclusivity and all. It is very, very important that corporate institutions, individual entrepreneurs give the same equal opportunities and view our friends with disabilities as equal people, to give them the opportunities to be able to work and also impact.
Harriet Ojua Aidan Sego is the acting headmistress of the school. While expressing gratitude for the donation, she addressed some challenges of the students and called for more support.
We are very grateful to Friends Forever and the La Vie group for giving back to society. Honestly, some of these things they brought will help our children. You know, because of the kind of, I don't know if it's a myth or I don't know how to call it, but even the parents find it difficult to accept their children. So some of them just come and dump them here. And sometimes they are hungry, and so when you bring us these drinks and things, it helps those who don't get to be able to have some. And we are very grateful for it because it reduces our burden around here. The food we give them, you can see that sometimes it's not as filling as you expect. So when you bring us donations of food and all, we are able to add it to whatever government provides.
From Cape Coast, Abigail Lisel in Nkrumah reports for JoyNews.
Now, the Setra East District in the Ashanti region has made progress in family planning. The district's performance has jumped from 32% in 2024 to nearly 41% in the first half of this year. Now, health officials say this is good news for women's health and economic empowerment. Mohammed Nuruddin has more in this report.
Planning in Setra East District is on the rise. Figures from the District Health Directorate show an increase from 32% last year to 40.98% in just the first half of 2025. District Health Director Dr. Justice Ofori-Amoah says more women are now embracing family planning as a way to take control of their reproductive health.
So if you look at the performance of the district in 2023, the district performed 31.5%. January to December 2023. Then if you look at 2024, January to December, the district was able to make some quite significant achievement, not much, 32%. However, today, half year, January to June, as we sit to take account of all that has been done, as of January to June 2025, significantly, we have performed 40.98%, which is quite good for the health of women within the district. Why is it so important if we have more of these women taking up or uptake of family planning going up?
He also explained that spacing births gives women time to recover, improves health outcomes, and allows them to pursue economic opportunities.
All is to give women the opportunity to space their births, to prevent any unwanted pregnancy, and go about their normal duties as expected. And above all, it is only one intervention that can also prevent maternal
deaths, so that women can have their freedom. No woman, we don't expect any woman to go to become pregnant and as a result or in the process will die. So we are very happy today that the population health, especially women, is understanding our advocacy.
The Health Directorate says it focuses on creating demand for family planning commodities, and raising awareness is paying off. Officials believe sustaining this progress will empower women, strengthen households, and promote healthier communities.
We're creating the demand for the high uptake of family planning commodities, among other health indicators. So the people of Secretariat East in all the communities, we encourage them to maintain this so that they can go about their normal duties, have babies when they want to have, not by accident. And then spacing their births will also give them economic freedom. In other words, they will have the time to do their normal things and make money to take care of their families.
With more women choosing family planning, Secretariat East District is setting an example of how health and development go hand in hand. A report by Mohamed Nuruddin.
Now for business update, economic analyst at Data Bank Research, Wilson Zilevu, believes further policy rate cuts could be possible if inflation expectations are well anchored and the cedi remains stable. He says these conditions will be critical in shaping credit flows and supporting long-term economic growth.
The NPR is at 21.5%, and our projections at Data Bank, we expect it to hover around 9%, plus or minus 2 percentage points. All things being equal, the committee can implement about 300 basis point cuts with real rates still in positive levels. What that means is that the returns on loans will not be completely eroded by the rising prices on the market. We don't expect demand pressures to resurface soon, considering what we are actually seeing on the market in terms of high NPL. On the side of fiscal imbalance, it appears fairly anchored. We've seen sharp declines in the risk-free rate, or should I say relatively risk-free rate, which obviously means less cost to government. And I think most importantly, what we should look out for is the cedi's performance. All things being equal, if that is well anchored, and the outlook on inflation or inflation expectation is well anchored, it gives room for further cuts to stimulate economic growth.
Also in business, the Ministry of Trade, Agribusiness and Industry says it will transform all industrial parks in the country into specialized economic zones, according to the sector minister and board chair of the Ghana Free Zones Authority, Elizabeth Ofosu-Ejari. The move will attract more enterprises into the free zone area, boosting national growth and improve non-traditional exports. She spoke at the 30th anniversary launch of the Ghana Free Zones Authority.
Ghana Free Zones Authority is aligned with the Feed the Industry policy, promoting integrated agribusiness whole chain through transformation of cocoa, cashew, fruits, shea, and vegetables into higher value exports. This ensures not only foreign exchange earning, but also direct benefits to farmers and local communities. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the Free Zones program continues to catalyze industrialization by encouraging value addition and value extension. This reduces Ghana's over-reliance on primary commodities and positions the country as a manufacturing and logistics hub in Africa. This aligns with government's broader agenda of building a self-reliance economy that is export-driven, technology-enabled, and inclusive. Over the years, Ghana has pursued bold policies to position itself as a competitive hub for trade and investment. However, ladies and gentlemen, to sustain the scale these achievements we have, we must evolve. This is why my ministry is championing the transformation from export processing zones to specialized economic zones, which has become imperative to embrace a more modern, inclusive, and flexible model of industrial development.
Well, that's how we wrap up the news on the show. But of course, you want to sit tight because it is the holiday edition of the AM show. Please stay.